Hi, everybody. Welcome in. Happy Saturday to you. Thank you for letting me be a part of your Saturday. I've got a really fun class for you guys today. This is a project that I absolutely love, so I'm really excited to show it to you. But for those of you who have never taken a class with me before, my name is Sarah Lovecraft. I am a designer for Beadalon. And I focus in wire, and that's definitely a lot of times I tell people like wire work is my love language. And that is definitely true with this project. I'm going to show you one of my very favorite techniques ever. And I hope that it will inspire you. And I hope that you will look at wire if you've ever been intimidated by it. I hope that I will inspire you to look at it in a different way and maybe take the plunge and mess around with it a little bit. I know that sometimes if you're just a straight stringer, sometimes wire, you dream of messing with it and working with it, but it can seem a little intimidating. I definitely want to demystify that for you and make it easy and accessible for everybody. So we're doing an earrings project today. We're focusing on herringbone wire wrapping technique. It is, like I said, one of my absolute favorites. You don't need a lot of materials for this project. I'm going to get you turned around and we're going to get started right away. All right, so the things that you are going to need. Actually, you know what? Let's start by looking at the sample first so that we can kind of get an idea of where we're going. For those of you who maybe didn't see the teaser picture, this is a good place to start. So we're going to be doing herringbone wire wrapping, and we're actually adding beads to this. If you've ever done herringbone before and you've never added beads, this is a step up from that, but this is still what I would consider a beginner friendly project. This is really not that hard. Also, this is a very large earring that you can shorten up. You don't have to do the double layers to this, and you also don't have to add the dangle to the bottom if you don't want to. We're going to be using some 24 gauge German style wire for this in silver. And everything about this is made out of that. However, if you choose to not do a knotted head pin here at the bottom, you can use just a regular head pin. I will leave that up to you, but I will show you how to do a knotted head pin with your 24 gauge wire. You're also going to need an ear wire for this, and you're going to need some beads. So as far as the beads are concerned, I'm using this really cool seed bead mix. I'm not much of a seed beader, but I always have seed beads on hand because they make great spacer beads. They're also great when you need small beads for something. This was the perfect project to show off some of this beautiful green that is very appropriate for spring. I think these look like flowers. So I'm using a Czech seed beads mix in size 6 from John Bead in Angel Blue. Now I've pulled out a lot of the green. You can see there's not much green left, but that's where these came from. So it's a really beautiful blue and green mix. And you can see I used a lot of the green, and I've used this for more than one project. The round beads for this project are these really beautiful glass beads. They are on the card. If you've taken classes with me before, you know how much I love these. I love a card that's got more than one strand on it in multiple sizes, because this can go a long way when it comes to creating jewelry. Definitely cost effective. And it doesn't hurt that they're beautiful, right? They do have this really beautiful kind of AB finish to them. They're white, but they have that flash of color that just makes them really pretty. And when you mix them with the green, it really does bring out the green flash that is on these. All right, so the last thing you're going to need as far as beads is some drops. And another thing I love is a card that has multiple colors on it. Now this one, I've used several of the drops, and the light colored green ones are missing from the card because I have used them for other projects. But this one had like a kind of a deeper green, a teal blue, and then this lighter green on it. They are just bead landing beads. They're 10 by 15 millimeter drops. Okay. As far as your tools are concerned, you're going to need just your standard tools. You need your pair of pliers, a pair of bent chain nose pliers, or just 2 pairs of standard pliers, round nose pliers. You're going to need a cutter tool. And if you're going to make a knotted head pin with me, you're going to need your nylon jaw pliers as well. But if you're going to use just a regular head pin, you don't need these, but you definitely need these for the knotted head pin. All right, so we're going to get started. The first thing you want to do is you want to cut about 12 inches of 24 gauge wire. And we're going to start up here at the top. So we're going to make this in 2 sections. We're going to start with this first section here. Okay. So just so you know where we're going with this, I'm going to come in with my chain nose pliers. We're going to create a wrapped loop at the top of our wire, but I need to come down a little bit more than I normally would. With a normal wrapped loop, I would only wrap about 3 times. With this, I need to wrap about 6 times. So I need to be sure that I come down about 2 inches on the end of that wire, and I'm going to bend the wire, make like a backward 7 shape. And then I'm going to come in with my round nose pliers. And I'm going to take that wire up and over the top barrel. Sorry, this long piece of wire is kind of fighting against the edge of my desk here. All right, so up and over. We're going to rotate. We're going to take the wire over to the other side. That's going to close up our loop. Now I'm going to switch hands. Okay, and I'm going to wire wrap, and I got to do 6. So there's 3, 4, 5, and 6. The more wraps you do, the more of the herringbone you can accommodate. Okay, you've got to have that space so that you can cover it up with your herringbone wire wrapping. You can't cover it up. You'll run out of room if you don't give yourself plenty of wire wraps there. Okay, so we've got 6 wire wraps, and then we're going to come in with our cutter. And we're going to trim off the excess. And then we are going to thread on one of our beads. Now the bead choice that I picked from the card, this one is this is an 8mm bead. Okay, so I'm going to thread that on, bring that down here to those wraps. Now I need to do 6 wraps on the other side as well. And since a normal wire wrap only accommodates about 3 wraps, we have to move our pliers. So normally if I were doing just 3 wraps, I would put the pliers right next to the bead where the wire is coming out of the bead, but I have to move down just a little bit, kind of eyeball it, so that I know that I have enough space here to create 6 wire wraps. That might be a little bit too much. Okay, so I've moved away from the bead just a little bit. I've given myself the same amount of room. It doesn't have to be exact, but you want it to be pretty darn close. Okay, so now taking those away, I'm coming in with my round nose pliers and going up and over, rotate the pliers, and then I'm going to wire wrap in that space there. Now mine is, I kind of overestimated a little bit. That's okay. So I have more wire wraps on this side than I do on this side. That's all right, because we're going to cover all of it up. It's not going to make that big of a difference. You just want to get close. Okay. All right. So don't trim off this wire. We need all this wire. That's what we're going to do the herringbone wire wrapping with. So what the herringbone wire wrap is it's just a way to frame your beads. Okay, this is a technique that you can do with beads. You can do it without beads, and the steps are exactly the same. Okay, so I'm going to take the wire. I want you to notice all of these steps are very important. All of these little details are really important. Notice first that the wire is coming from around the back and up the front, right? So if I'm looking at the bead, this wire is on the front side of these wire wraps. I always want the wire to stay on the front side of the wire wraps. That is really, really important. Okay, so I'm going to take the wire and I'm going to guide it down the side of the bead, and I want to lay it as close to the bead as possible. And I want to, again, going in front of the wraps, I want to go in front when I get to the other side, and then I want to wrap around those wire wraps and then back out to the front. That's created a little frame on the left side of our bead. Okay, I'm going to do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm going to guide the wire. Now, if your wire has a little bit of a kink in it, a little bend in it, okay, and then I'm going to guide the wire down the side, the opposite side, okay, and again, I'm coming to the front of those wire wraps, wrapping around and then back out to the front. Okay, so now I have framed that on both sides. And you can see when you look at it from the side, it's a little bit towards the front, right? Because we are in front of those wire wraps. So it's not exactly lined up centered on the side of the bead. It's more towards the front, but you can still see all of this beautiful, you know, color of this bead. So I'm not covering the bead up by any means. All right, now we're going to do this again. So the next step of the herringbone wire wrap, we're going to do the exact same thing, but when we go down the side of the bead, we want to go behind the first wrap that we did. So here are the things to remember. We're going in front of the wire wraps, these wire wraps on the top and the bottom, but we're going behind the wire wrap that's going down the side of the bead. So take the wire, place it behind the wrap that's here on the side, but then to the front of the wire wraps at the end of the bead, wrap around and back out the front. Okay. Then we are going to do the same thing on the other side. So we're going behind the wire wrap that's going down the side of the bead, and then to the front of the wire wraps, wrapping around and back out the front. And that's it. That's all there is to the herringbone wire wrapping. So if you're not going to add beads to this, you're just going to proceed with this exactly the same way. Every time you go down the side of the bead, you're going to go behind the previous wire wrap, but always going to the front of these wire wraps on the top and the bottom. Okay, and you're just going to fill this up. And the reason that it has the herringbone name is because it looks like the herringbone bones of a fish, or like a herringbone braid. As you work the wire up and you make your herringbone sections thicker, you'll see that it starts to look very much like fish bones. It's a really cool look, but when you add beads to it, it changes it up and kind of softens it a little bit. So what we're going to do is the next round of herringbone that we do, we're actually going to add a row of beads. And since we're adding beads, they're not going to go behind the previous wrap. They're actually going to go to the side of the wrap. So we're going to pick up 6 of our size 6 seed beads. Just bring these down here closer to us. Oops. We're going to drop those down, and then we want to just guide these down the side of the bead. Just want to kind of arch your wire. Okay, then same thing, going to the front of the wire wraps, we're going to wrap around and back out to the front. Okay. And then we just want to repeat that on the other side. So we want to pick up seed beads, and we want to make a little frame of seed beads on this side as well. Okay, so you're just going to guide those and then wrap to the front of the wire wraps. And then back out to the front. You can wrap around a couple of times if you want to use up some of that excess wire, but there's your first little round. Now, if it's not perfect, you can come in, because this 24 gauge wire is pretty soft. You can come in and really kind of coax it into the shape that you want it to be, make it a little bit more round. And then you're going to come to the back and you're going to trim off. So let me show you. There was a question in the beginning, why 6 wire wraps? That's really, you can see that here. So you have to have enough wire wraps here. This is the back, by the way, to accommodate all of those wraps around. So if I wanted to make a couple more rows of beads and widen this out even further, then I would need to have more than 6 wire wraps here. I would probably need more like 1/4 of an inch of wire wraps to accommodate a couple more rows of the herringbone, particularly if it's with beads. If it's not with beads, you might not need a full extra 1/4 of an inch of space, but you do need a couple more wire wraps. Okay, so that's all there is to it. Now we're going to create the second one, and we're going to wire wrap it directly to the top one. So we're going to repeat this exact same process. We're just going to do it down here on the bottom. Okay, so we're going to take another 12-inch piece of wire, and we're going to start out the exact same way. We're going to create a wrapped loop with about 6 wraps, and we're going to wrap it directly to this loop on the bottom, or either side, whichever one you decide is the bottom of the piece we just made. So there are no jump rings involved here. Okay, so coming down on the wire, give yourself about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, give the wire a bend. Okay, we're coming in with our round nose pliers. We're going up and over. We're going to rotate, and we're going to take the wire over to the other side. Now, before you do those wire wraps, take it off of the tool. Take the tail end of this wire and stick it through one of the loops here. And then you just want to very gently snap those two together. Okay, now at this point, I like to use my bent chain nose pliers to hold on to this. I just feel like it's easier. It keeps the tip of the pliers out of the way. And I can get those wire wraps in there without having to wrap around or accommodate for my pliers. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, take that off, and then I'm going to come in with my cutter tool and trim off the excess wire. I'm going to thread on another one of our beads. And then I just want to repeat that on the other side. I want to make room so that I've got enough room for about 6 wire wraps on this side. So just kind of want to guess. Now you can always bring your ruler in here and get it exact if you want to. I tend to just eyeball it because getting close is good enough. Nobody's really going to notice. All of this wire wrap part stays on the back. Nobody ever really sees it. Okay, so we're going up and over, rotate the pliers, take the wire over to the other side. Now it's just a little trickier this time around just because we have the addition of this piece that we already made, but it shouldn't make things too much more difficult. All right, so just wrapping around. Yes, I have more than 6 wraps. That's okay. Don't trim off your wire because we're going to use all of that. Okay. All right, so we're going to proceed with our herringbone wire wrapping. So the first 2 wraps around, remember, we don't add any beads to those. So I'm going to guide this wire down the side of the bead and then to the front of the wire wraps on the end. And then I'm going to wrap around to the back and then back out to the front. Okay. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to go down the side of the bead, in front of the wire wraps, around and back out to the front. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go behind the wire wrap on the side though. Okay, so just remember that when you're going down the side, it's behind, but when you're going around the wraps, it's in front. So we're going behind the wrap down the side and then to the front of the wire wraps at the end of the bead. Wrap around and then back out the front for 2. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going behind the previous wrap, going down the side, but to the front of the wire wraps at the end, wrap around and back out to the front. Okay. All right. Now we're ready to add our beads to this. We're almost done. This is a very, very quick project. Very, very quick and a great one that you can spend, a little bit of time practicing. If you're a beginner and this is your first time doing herringbone, this is a good one because it doesn't take a whole lot of time. So you can practice it over and over again. And in about 30 minutes, you're going to have this one down, I promise. As long as you remember to go behind on the side and in the front on both ends, you'll be good to go. You'll be good to go. And 24 gauge wire is a great soft wire to work with. All right, so we're going to pick up some beads. Okay, we're going to drop those down. And then we just want to guide those down the side of our bead. And again, they don't have to go to the back of those wire wraps. They're just a frame on the outside edge of the herringbone that's already there. But you still want to go to the front of the wire wraps on the ends. So wrap around and then back out to the front. And then you just want to fill up the other side with beads as well. I think I'm 1 green bead short here, so I'm gonna have to grab one from the beads. Yeah, let me get a bead out of here. There's one right there, just 1 little green bead's all I needed. I'll put all these back. Okay, gonna thread that on. All right, now again, just kind of guide the beads around the edge of the wire and around the edge of your bigger bead. Take the wire to the front of the wire wraps and then wrap around. You can wrap around a couple of times. You use up that wire if you want to. And then again, you can adjust all of it with your fingers. And we are going to come to the back and we're going to trim off. Now, I actually have a bit of wire left here. So I have several inches, looks like maybe 5 inches of wire left. I'm going to hold on to this. I'm going to use this to make my knotted head pin with. Okay. So don't trash your scraps, particularly when they're long scraps like that. Okay. All right. So now we just want to decide what's the top and the bottom, and it really doesn't make any difference here. It's just up to you. But on the top loop, we're going to add our ear wire. On the bottom loop, we're going to add our drop dangle. So let's do the drop dangle first. And we're going to make a knotted head pin. Again, you don't want to do this. You can use just a regular head pin, but this is a neat little trick to know and have, just in case you ever get in a bind and you need a head pin or you want all of your metals to match, right? So I'm going to get the very tip of the wire here and the tip of my round nose pliers. I'm going to grab the tip with the tip here. So we want to be at the very, very end of both of these, the end of the tool and the end of the wire. I'm going to wrap around the very tip top of the round nose pliers one time all the way around. And then I'm going to wrap around a second time directly underneath that first wrap around. And I want to stop where I see the cut in the wire so that I know that I've gone around twice. Okay. Now, before I take this off of the tool, I want to take the wire and bend it so that it is running underneath those 2 little coils that we just made. If you take it off of the tool before you make the bend, you are more likely to bend it the wrong direction. So that's why I like to make the bend before I take it off of the pliers. I'm going to take it off of the tool. You can see what we have here. We've got 2 little coils, the wire running underneath them. I'm going to take the tail end of the wire and I'm going to turn it around. And I'm going to stick it back through those 2 little coils that we made. Looks like a little lasso. Okay. I'm going to come in with my nylon jaw pliers and hold onto that wire. You want to hold on to it so that the 2 little coils are right up against the side of the nylon. Okay. You don't want there to be any extra space there. Now you have to use your nylon jaw pliers for this, because if you don't, and you pull this wire through a pair of regular pliers, you're going to strip off that nylon coating that's on the outside that's protecting your wire. So nylon jaw pliers are an absolute must for this. I'm going to take another pair of pliers and I'm just going to grab the wire and I'm going to pull. And as I pull, I'm going to pull a knot into the end of my wire. It makes like a little rosette. It also evens up and centers the wire inside that. So we have a head pin. And now I'm going to use this to thread on my bead. And you can see it just makes itself like a little flower here at the bottom. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to do a wrapped loop. I'm going to wrap it directly to my earring here, and I'm going to double this wire wrap. So I'll show you what I mean, because I've got a lot of excess wire here to use up. I'm going to come in with my chain nose pliers. I'm grabbing the wire right where it is exiting the bead, and I'm going to bend the wire over the top of those pliers. That's going to give me the space that I need to make the wire wraps. I'm coming in with my round nose pliers. So I'm going up and over the top barrel of the pliers, rotate the pliers, take the wire over to the other side. Now, before you wire wrap, take it off of the tool, take the tail end of that wire and stick it through one of the loops and just snap those 2 together. Okay. I'm again using my bent chain nose pliers just to keep the tool out of the way. And I'm going to wire wrap, and I'm going to wire wrap, probably have enough room for maybe 4 wire wraps. And now I'm going to turn around and go back the other direction. Okay, so I went from the loop down to the top of the bead. Now I'm going to go from the top of the bead to the loop, and I'm just going to cover up the wire wraps I just made. It just kind of thickens up your wraps a little bit, uses up some of that excess wire, and it makes things a little bit more balanced when you're using 24 gauge wire, because it tends to be on the thin side. So that just kind of bulks everything up a little bit. You don't have to do it, but I'm kind of partial to it when I'm using a thin gauge wire. And then I'm going to come in with my cutter tool and trim off the excess. And we have added our little drop to the bottom of our earring. Now, really, guys, this is it. The only thing left to do is to add our ear wire to this, and these are done. You just want to repeat all of these steps to create the second earring to go with this. So I'm just going to open up the loop on my earring, thread it onto the top loop, and there we go. And that's it. That's it. Now, I know these earrings, like I said at the beginning, these are a little long. You can shorten these up if you want to. You do not have to make them a double. You can do just a single little flower and then a drop, or you can leave the drop off altogether, and you can take that loop at the bottom and you can tuck it towards the back. That way, you don't even see the loop. It just looks like a circle of seed beads here. Now, some alternative ideas for this is not making earrings at all. Let's say that you use up more of these beads and you make all of these links, and you could make a linked bracelet, which would be awesome, right? Or you can do any kind of chain, right, with a bunch of these. So that would be really, really pretty. This little herringbone technique, you can mix and match with any of the beads that you want. You can mix and match the colors. A lot of versatility there. And again, they can be used as earrings. They can be used as pendants, or just links for a really beautiful beaded chain. So there you go, guys. I'm going to turn you around and show you what these look like on. And just a reminder that you guys can watch this on replay. It takes about 24 to 48 hours, but this you can watch again over on YouTube, the Michael's YouTube channel. If you want to see it again, take these off so you can see. I love these, and they're really lightweight. They don't weigh a lot at all. They're really beautiful. They have just a little bit of sparkle to them, so you could dress them up or dress them down. I definitely would wear these with my blue jeans, but honestly, if I were going to like a wedding as a guest, I would wear them with a dress as well. Super cute, super cute. I hope you guys have enjoyed this project. They just look a lot different on. I always like to try things on so you can see how they look hanging, because gravity definitely affects things a little bit differently. But I can tell you, like I said, they're very lightweight, so they're not heavy at all, even though they are a little bit longer of an earring, but you can always shorten them up if it's still just too much for you. But that's it for me, you guys. Thank you so, so much for joining me. I appreciate it more than you know. I always love these classes, and I hope that you enjoy them as well. Please be sure to check out some of the other designers and artists that are here on Michael's, and I will be back with you guys again soon with another fun project. You guys enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Okay, bye guys.